trying something a little bit different today.
We're on a split screen.
Yeah, here's that. It's not getting any better. Okay.
Looks fine.
Hey, Deb, how are you?
Can you guys see both of us? And hear both of us?
Hi, Stefan. Mr. Dunn, how are you? I'm not sure they can hear us. Hi, Annie. Vandeep. No, the new camera is at the dojo for when we do the broadcast for the class, and we just decided to see if we could share the screen like I did with you that one week, so that we don't have to try and squish in on one camera.
Excellent.
Awesome. All right, so schedule-wise, where did I put my bag? Hold on. Well, we only have one class, live class scheduled for today. That's at 6 p.m. and it's the 3 to 6-year-old beginner class. Ms. Power is running that one.
I'm clearly not doing this well.
So, as far as tomorrow's Thursday. So Thursday I run a class at 5 o'clock, and then there's another kids beginner class at 6 p.m. that Mr. Dunn is recording or running live through Zoom. And then obviously our Friday we have the teen and adult green to blue at 7, I believe. And then the brown and black belt class, we're almost guaranteed you're going to need a chair and a belt.
In case you didn't know.
At 8 p.m. Unless Mr. Dunn says otherwise. Just assume you're going to need a chair and a belt or a towel. And as far as the book goes, so I was flipping through, I just sort of picked a page at random and read a quote. And it really it emphasizes what Sensei Julie is doing in the brown black belt class. So I figured I'd share it with you guys. So the first one, if you're reading the book, it's under Warrior Fitness. And the first thing that I saw in there was so the 3 pillars of fitness, described on page 209, 210. And they are, to condition the 3 pillars of fitness, you need to train for muscular strength and endurance, condition for aerobic capacity, and develop flexibility. And there was a historical sort of report from a newspaper article back in 1928. Sorry. So the demonstration that happened was in 1928. It was reported in 1982 by a journalist named Takuda Anshu. So it looks like there's some time that passed. So who knows how accurate it is, but it was about Miyagi Chojin. So in the demonstration, Miyagi thrust his hand into a bunch of bamboos and pulled one out from the center. He struck his hands into a slab of meat and tore off chunks. He put white chalk on the bottoms of his feet, jumped up and kicked the ceiling, leaving his footprints on the ceiling for all to see. Spectators hit him with long staffs with no effect. And with his fingers, he tore off the bark of a tree. And with his big toe, he punctured a hole into a kerosene can. So that was, I guess, how the news article read. And again, how true that was, I don't know. Based on the says the account of the demonstration in 1928 by karate master Miyagi Chojin, as reported by Okinawan journalist Tokuda Ansu Kim in 1982. So there's a fair bit of time in between, and that was, I guess, on page 82 of that newspaper or that journal. But the one that I was reading is actually a quote from Bruce Lee on page 212 under conditioning for aerobic capacity. It says, most beginning athletes are unwilling to drive themselves hard enough. They should punish themselves and then rest adequately, only to increase the output of effort after the rest. Long hours of work made up of many short, high-speed efforts interspersed with periods of milder activity seem to be the best endurance training procedure. So when you think about all these HIIT exercises that are coming out now, so that quote was back in 1975. So HIIT is nothing new, right? So when we think about the fad of HIIT exercising at gyms and what's the weightlifting one? CrossFit, yeah. They haven't invented anything. What they've done is sort of brought back practices that were either forgotten or become less popular and reworked them. But from a martial arts training point of view, obviously, that idea of working to failure, getting the heart rate up, and then getting adequate rest in between, so that you can perform to that same level again, is effective, right? And it looks like people in the comments are saying that they had a pretty good workout. So
Is that what they're saying?
Well, Debbie said she felt good after the class last night.
Where's that?
Which is good. I mean, you should feel good, right? It's not about exercise shouldn't be about making yourself feel like crap emotionally, right? You shouldn't leave a workout feeling like a failure. It's not intended to be punishment, as much as unfortunately he uses that word in his quote. Where did he say? Yeah, they should punish themselves and then rest. The wording's not the greatest. I wouldn't.
It's old school thinking.
Yeah, that's an old school thing, but in effect, I guess if you're in that mindset of where you really just want to take your body to the max, I would use that rather than the word punishment, because from a mental point of view, we're here to build ourselves up through exercise, right? To increase our abilities, not necessarily do exercise as a form of punishment, right? Not that the actual physical thing that you do is any different. It's just changing the vocabulary.
Yeah, for psychological. And then sometimes there's a little bit of a difference physically. Like yesterday, the main difference was allowing yourself to push yourself to your 100% max and then stopping when you need to, and then not starting up again until you feel like you can do it. So your breath you caught all your breath. Your body's feeling good again, like it can go again, and you're not in pain or whatever happens psychologically when you push yourself hard. So there's that, like, and it takes however long it takes. So that's sort of a slightly different physical application, I think.
Yeah, and I think the main difference is allowing that recuperation, right? When someone's performing a punishment, it's to get you to stop doing something, right? But from a fitness point of view and a healthy lifestyle point of view, we're using the same exercise. We're still working to failure, but the end result mentally should be a feeling of accomplishment rather than defeat.
Well, I would also add that it depends on who's running a class, because if you look at other fitness studios and what the trend is currently, it is push, not just push to failure, but push beyond that. Like there is no failure in the sense that it's like, keep going, keep going, keep pushing it, keep pushing it, keep pushing it. So that people are pushing past a sense where form is breaking and they're mentally pushing while they're mentally struggling. So there's still a lot of training out there that happens that way. I'm not saying it necessarily at our school, but it's like, keep going, push yourself, don't quit, don't stop, right? This particular method I was doing is a little bit of a different approach.
And again, I still think though that you can be the kind of coach that is encouraging people to push beyond what they believe their limits to be, because there's a belief in a current barrier and point of failure, and then their actual physical point of failure, right? Because we tend to put mental barriers in place based on past experience, and you could work out forever and actually be capable of more, but never realize it because there's no one there to push you. I think the difference is the attitude of the trainer, right? If you going in and, well, in our classes, for instance, kids class, old school idea of asking a kid to do push-ups when they're late would be as a form of punishment. Oh, you're late, so you have to do, 10 push-ups, 25 push-ups, whatever it was. Whereas now, the attitude needs to be, well, you're late, you need to get caught up. Like you missed a certain amount of exercise. This is the fastest way to get you warmed up so that you can continue on with class. It's not done as punishment.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I completely agree. Even in class last night, as an example of what you're saying, Sensei, during the bursts of where people were pushing like to hit their max, there needs to be cues to get them to, get that heart rate up, get the feet moving, get whatever it is, just keep going until they can't. And then they recover and get back into it, and then need to not pace themselves, because a lot of people are used to pacing to get through, right? Especially with the fitness about, it's like, I've got 2 minutes to do these burpees. What's my timing going to be? Because I need to catch my breath, or I feel like I'm going to vomit.
Yeah, and that's a huge difference. And that's what I meant when I was talking about people not actually ever reaching their barrier. And it's because of the pacing that you're talking about, right? They know how far they can go because they've done that before. They know how much energy they believe they have, and then they eke it out throughout the workout so that by the end of the whole workout, they're exactly where they were before, right? So they never cross that imaginary barrier.
Yeah.
And that's where the job of the coach comes in, to encourage that person to push harder. Right?
So Annie, you're saying it's a good metaphor for your days? Push through the long days, but take a break to do what you need to do until you can go back and do it. Yeah, exactly. It's great.
Yeah.
It's a great lifestyle balance there to know your limits, right? And then once once you've rested and recuperated, then whatever you set your mind to doing when you're ready to go again is to put your 100% effort and focus into it. Yeah, that's actually an excellent point. Debbie says she can see the style of training helping you to work up to the fitness eval for sure, because it's conditioning the heart and the recovery, as well as giving you a little bit more sense of control in your how far you can go, right? When you feel like you're in control and you can stop without somebody making you feel bad, it's going to put you in the right frame of mind too. Not that the other systems and the other ways of doing it are necessarily bad. They're just a different way. I so far prefer this way because it meets the stage of life I'm at. And I recognize that and realizing that women's metabolisms and bodies on the inside are different from men's. So we have to kind of consider that and keep up with new information as the fitness industry learns it.
I think it applies to, and I know Mr. Dunn's on here, so he can either agree or not, but I think it applies to weight training exercise as well, right? When you think about how muscle is built, right? You actually build muscle by first damaging it and tearing it apart with micro tears, hopefully, rather than, big tears. But the longer the workout period and the more damage you do, the more recovery time you need to do on that muscle before you can work it again, right? So it's the same idea with cardio, right? If you're going to work it to the max and push yourself, there's a recovery time needed, right? And so the longer you're trying to do cardio, the more recovery you need, or the harder you work your cardio, the more recovery you need.
More in the moment than actually days in between, I think.
Yeah.
But same premise, yeah, I agree.
It's the same underlying premise.
The problem is that the challenge is that in the dojo and with black belt training, and this is just something we accept and we do the best that we can, balancing rest, is that in order to get somebody prepared for their black belt training or to test for their black belts, there is an acknowledgement and an understanding that there is not the ability to rest and recover in an ideal way, given the fact that we have a set amount of goals that we need to meet so that candidates are prepared. So there is an aspect of overtraining that we just can't get around unless we had unless we made it a 2-year process. And I don't think psychologically students would go for that.
Well, ideally we have a 3 to 4 year process if we start right at white.
With conditioning. It would take that and extend it by 2 years is what I'm saying. So instead of a 4-year journey to black, it would be a 6 or 7 year currently under the current curriculum. So yeah, we could do it that way.
Well, I think when you think about the amount of training that the brown belts start putting themselves through once they get brown, it's only exhaustive because they haven't been training that way since the beginning.
No, sorry, let me clarify. If you're coming to class 5 days a week, there's no ability to rest. That's what I'm saying. Ideally, you're working a muscle group once every 7 days. That's the ideal, and we can't do that.
Okay.
And I don't think we can get white belts training like that. What?
I'm not suggesting that white belts train 5 days a week, but they definitely need to be doing HIIT cardio classes from the beginning, so that by the time they're doing 5 days a week, it's easy, and they don't need as much recovery because they've already built up.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that when muscles need to recover, you need 7 days, ideally, according to the fitness industry, and we can't maintain that. It's just something we can't do. And most gyms can't do it either because people are going 3 days a week off and doing a full body workout, which isn't ideal, is all I'm saying. You understand I'm differentiating the two, right?
Yeah. All right. So does anyone have any questions?
What did Annie say? That's awesome. Yeah, definitely allows you to feel more confident about yourself, Annie.
Yeah, and positive.
Hmm?
And positive, she said.
Yeah.
Any questions about karate? If not, you can let us know how you guys are doing. What are you up to?
Yep. That's good, Greg. Rotating is good. But again, we're in classes. Like I see the brown belts and I'm working out full bodies on all of them. So it's just an overtraining state that we can't avoid.
No, I just think he's talking about his personal classes. So.
In class and personally, he said.
Yeah, the classes that he runs.
Right. And so he sees the same students I do. So if we're both doing workouts that are the same, they're not getting the recovery they need. That's all my point is we can't avoid it.
Yes, Bandeep, HIIT training is effective. So you do want to push yourself. You want to make sure you have recovery time in between.
And I'm going to clarify, Bendy, the kind of training I'm doing in the brown belt class is what we're talking about. You won't see that training yet until you're in the brown belt class. So you can continue to push yourself as long as you're honoring rest days.
Yeah. So for example, if you do a full body workout from like a strength training perspective, so you're working all areas of your body, then chances are that at least the next day, you're not going to work out at all because you don't have the option to rotate to a different body part, right? So Mr. Dunn, say for instance, did like a leg day where he works all the areas of the leg by rotating. What he's saying is, so the next day he might do, arms and shoulders or chest and back, right? So that he's not working or stressing the legs. That way they get a chance to recover. And how long that recovery is will depend on how much you burnt them out during the workout. So if you worked it really hard, like if you're working to failure, it might take a full 6 days of rest before you can do your legs again. That doesn't mean you can't do anything, right? You can still go for walks and practice your kata. You just don't want to go, tearing all those muscles again.
And usually there's a minimum amount of time, 24 to 48 hours. If you were to work your legs out again, you're not doing damage.
Yeah.
But you just may not get the gains you're looking for if you're building muscle. So hopefully that clarifies, Bendeep. Not to worry. Just listen to your body is probably the best advice too. If it's sore, rest.
Yeah. And that like if you go back to the quote that from Bruce Lee, what he was talking about was, if you're pushing yourself hard, however hard that is, the rest needs to be enough that you can work to the same intensity in your next workout. Right? You should, if you're incapable of working out properly during your next workout because of the exercise you did in a previous workout, then you didn't have enough rest in between.
Yeah. And everybody's body is a little different on how they recover. So you can do a full body workout, rest 24 hours. But should you be doing a full body workout again in 48 hours? It depends on the body. And if you're looking to build mass, probably not for 6 days. If you're looking to build muscle mass and strength. And that's, there's going to be arguments in the industry. So. And if you have any questions along the way, just ask myself or Sensei.
Yeah, so Mr. Dunn is saying, so in theory, 1 day a week per body area. If you do full body, the next day should be a rest day, right? And that really depends on how hard you worked out, right? So if you're trying to do a to failure kind of exercise and you can actually work it with less rest, chances are you didn't actually work to failure to begin with, right? Because you should need that rest. So it's a way of measuring your own gains in fitness as well.
It depends what your goals are. There's toning, there's strength training, there's building mass, and then in cardio there's speed, agility, there's heart health. So it depends on what you're looking for. But in the capacity of going for Shodan, you will be in a state of overtraining physically, and we try to compensate for that as much as we can, and that's just the nature of it. But we're very cognizant of it. We'll inform you along the way as you get higher belted, what you should be eating and stuff like that.
And like we said before, the earlier you start on your fitness journey on that side, the less stressful the brown belt training will feel.
Yeah, that's true.
Because we can only do so much in a class, right? So if you don't do anything, then brown to black belt training is going to feel like hell week or hell 6 months, right? But if you start working that journey now, right, just building up your cardio slowly, building up your strength slowly, it'll be more achievable or more easily achievable. So Annie's asking, she says she has a high pain tolerance. She feels
awesome.
like even if I'm in pain, I still work it and push myself. Should I slow down or continue to push to make myself accomplish for the day? So working to failure in a strength training and idea is at some point your muscles will stop doing what you want them to do. That's what failure is, right? So the lactic acid built up in your biceps when you're doing bicep curls or something will get to a point where your muscles just can't process, they need more oxygen, whatever, and you just won't be able to lift the weight anymore physically, like no matter how much you want to. That's what failure is. So it doesn't really matter what your level of pain tolerance is. The muscles will do what they're going to do.
Now I read her question, I interpreted her question a little differently. So Annie, if you're saying that you're doing classes regularly during the week and you've got body pain on a day that you're going to do a class again and you're pushing yourself because you can push through that, it depends on how many times you're working out in the week to allow that. So if you're working 2 days back to back and you don't have an in-between day where you're not doing karate, like you're doing I don't know when you're doing classes, but if you're doing a Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, but you're resting and no karate Saturday, Sunday, Monday, then you should be recovering fine. You should be healing the muscles fine, if that's your question. And then because you don't want to injure yourself. So I would say if you're doing back-to-back classes, make sure you have a chunk of time that you're not doing karate. You can still walk the dog, you can still ride a bike, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And then for yourself, because you also have the MyZone heart rate monitor, you can really look at how intensely you're working out based on your own heart rate. So if you find yourself in the red zone a lot, then you might want to consider, from a cardio perspective, shortening those bursts. Right? It's okay to go into the red zone for short bursts, but you don't want to be in there constantly. Right? Your goal for cardio is to actually be in the green. And then there's the fitness test in that app as well that will measure your recovery rate for your heart rate, which is a good one to do every 3 months or so, just to see if you're improving. But you wouldn't do it all the time, the test all the time, because it's
So if you've done a heavy leg class and you've done heavy glutes and your legs are hurting and it's difficult to walk downstairs and it's impeding how you move in your regular day, that's pain that you need to recover from and you need to rest. But you may need a full 6 days until you're walking. And I've had those days where you can't bend down, you can't sit in a squat without getting into it slowly. That's the kind of pain that requires usually 6 days of recovery. Doesn't mean you can't work out lightly those areas after 48 hours, but you wouldn't want to do that same kind of intense workout on the muscles. So hopefully that makes sense, if that's what you mean. Good. Awesome.
good. That's why when we, in our week-to-week workouts, we don't always work the same subject either, right? So we might have 1 week that's more physically intensive, and then the next week might be more technical, right? More maybe we could still work the same topics, like say both weeks were kata, but 1 week you work 100% intensity kind of kata, and then the next week we can still do kata, but we work more on technical, right? So it's a little slower, things like that. Any other questions? If not, it is 4 o'clock. Not that we really have to be anywhere today. Next class doesn't start till 6. Miss Power is running it. I might hop on just to stress her out of it. You're very welcome, Miss Bauer. Yeah, so Greg looks like he was differentiating between sort of soreness and pain. Like if you go to a doctor to tell them, say you're feeling sore, they differentiate between like sharp pains and if it's just achy, right? So lactic acid buildup in a muscle that's what they call the burn, right? So that's a good kind of pain. It means you've worked out enough to actually build lactic acid and work that muscle, versus a sharp pain could mean like there's something wrong, like you've torn something that shouldn't be torn, or things like that. So yeah, if you're feeling that kind of pain and it doesn't go away, as opposed to that burny ache kind of thing, make sure you get checked out right away, right? Because that's what you want to stop working out at that point. until you know what's wrong. Okay, guys, I think the chatter has died down. So, what do you say? Or say goodbye until tomorrow.
See you guys all tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel.
All right, guys.
Am I ending it, Sensei, here on my end?
Yeah, I have no control over this.
Okay. Okay, bye, guys. We'll see you tomorrow at 3:30. Have a good rest of your day.